Hey guys, and welcome to another Blender Buzz tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this really easy, quick little character that you can make for like a postcard or just something cute or creative. It's about a 40-minute tutorial. I hope you guys will like it. Just to show you what it's going to look like in Blender. If I just quickly go to the scene, it's going to look something like this. It's a simple little character, simple little particle system, and a backdrop. So let's get right into this tutorial. Okay, so now with a new fresh scene opened up in Blender, we're going to delete everything. So I'm going to press A and then X and delete. And just before I forget, I like to turn on my screencast keys. That'll just help you guys to see the keys I'm pressing. And one of the easier ways to work sometimes is to work in orthographic, which we will be doing quite a bit. So if you have a number pad on your keyboard, you can hit 5 to go into orthographic. And you'll see at the top here, it'll say user orthographic. And you can press 1 to go into free, and you can to go into front view, and you can press 3 to go into the side view. Now, another way to do that, if you don't have a number pad, is just come here to view and click on right view, back view, front view, and you can also turn on and off orthographic and perspective here. Okay, so making sure we're in front orthographic, I'm going to go also make sure my cursor is in the center. Okay, Shift S, cursor to center, and we're going to go add. We're going to go mesh, and the object we're going to be selecting is UV sphere. So go ahead and select your UV sphere, and you're going to see where your cursor is placed in your scene. It has gone and created our default sphere here, and we're going to, with this selected, hit Tab on our number pad, or we're going to go to Object, go into Edit Mode, and hit Z to go into Wireframe. Okay, and then we're going to press A, deselect everything, just A one more time to make sure all the vertices are selected, and we're just going to pull it up, okay, to here. Then I'm going to select this vertex down here, go to Proportional Editing, and we're going to make this connected. Then we're going to go S, Z, and we're going to move our mouse towards the cursor while we scroll the middle mouse wheel to control our fall off amount. Okay, we're just going to make this bottom more round, like this. Grab this top vertex and we're just going to pull it up like so. And that's what you should have. Something that looks like an egg. Okay, so back into object mode now, we can see what it looks like. And to make things look a little bit more smooth, we can enable smooth shading. And another thing we can do is just go to our modifiers and add a subdivision modifier. And we're just going to go hit apply. And because we're not going to be doing any kind of editing with this anymore, we're just going to add a particle system to it, because this is going to be a very basic character. And like I said in the beginning, the intent of this sort of character is more of just like a final render. It's not going to be for an animation, so we don't have to worry about the geometry or anything like that, as long as the still image just looks okay. So we're going to throw geometry and stuff like that out of the window. Okay, this isn't something that's going to be animated. We're going to just cheat as much as we can. So it doesn't have to be any kind of body structure underneath, just this object will do. And we can now go and add a particle system. So over here on the side, if you go to your particles tab, you can go ahead, hit new, make this hair instead of emitter, and we can bring the hair length under emission. We can bring the hair length down to about here, and we can enable advanced. Go down, go to display, or go to children actually, children here, and make this interpolated. And under display, we can make the steps 5. And we can also go up to render, and you'll see an option here called B-spline in the render options. So we're going to enable B-spline, and we can also make the number over here 700, which I think works good for this character. And we can now start editing our particles. So with this selected, we're going to go into particle edit. Okay, and right now you can only see the parent particles, but you can also enable the children if you go to your properties here, your tools panel, and you can hit T to enable that if you can't see it. And we're just going to enable children. And now you can see your children particles. Okay, So we're now going to go collect our, click on our comb brush, and to control the size we can press F, sorry not F, just go back to our particles. If we hold in F and pull our mouse, we can control the size. If we do Shift F, we can control the strength. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a strength like this and edit my hair particles. I'm just gonna bring everything down like this at first. Go to my right view, just pull it all down like this. Go to the front view again, and now I'm gonna take this deflect distance, okay, and I'm gonna make it 1. And now if I do this, it's gonna deflect it off the surface more than because we've increased this distance, so it's not going to be adhering or going into the mesh. And I can bring this up a little bit like this. Go to the side again, and this is just a matter of combing the hair till it looks right. And to get a bit better view, I'm just going to disable children for now, and I'm also going to increase the path steps just to make it look a little bit more smoother. And yeah, and instead of combing these particles away, we can go cut. So we can cut these particles down here just like that. And now we can get our comb again and just bring these particles in like so. And now we can enable our children again, and this is what we have. So we're going to go back into object mode, and we're going to give this character a material. So click on our materials, go new, and we're going to call this skin. And we're in Blender render currently, so I'm going to make this cycles render. Go use nodes, and just name this skin. I made a spelling mistake. And in the viewport settings, I'm just going to make this blue, and I'm going to make the actual color blue as well. And if I tap into edit mode and out again, you can see it now affects the hair color. I might make this a bit lighter in the viewport. Okay, something like that. Go to our particle settings. We're going to go down to our children, and under display, we'll just make it 5, so the viewport display isn't so overwhelming. And we can also go to where it says curl down here and bring down the amplitude. And then we can go to this random value here. Just increase that a little bit to make the hairs a little bit more random, so they don't look too perfect. And just a little bit will do. That looks about right. And this is pretty much the body of our character. It's that simple. A very simple hair setup, very simple hair particle editing. And we can now go on to the next step, which is making the eyes of our guy, which is super easy, and also making his little mouth. And that's going to be really straightforward. So I think we'll start with the eye. Okay, that's probably the most work of this whole thing, is making the eye. So I'm going to go UV sphere, go to my right orthographic view, and go R90. Okay. Then move this forward by pressing G, just moving your mouse to move it here. Go to your front orthographic view, and just size this guy down like this, and move it to the side. Then we're going to go to our little tools panel here, give it a subdivision surface, and we're also going to give it a mirror modifier. And down here on this little eyedropper, we're going to click the eyedropper, and we're going to click on our guy here, and that's going to mirror it correctly. Okay, so if I move this in, the other one moves, so we only have to model one eye. So I'm going to go to my right orthographic view, go into wireframe. I'm going to Shift Alt right click to select these vertices here, this loop. Shift S, cursor to selected. So that's going to put the cursor right in the center there. Then if I select these vertices here, all of these vertices, I set this to 3D cursor mode, and I disable proportional editing, and I go S, Y, -1. It'll invert it on that spot. So we've now made this dimple in the eye, and I can now disable this pivot point here, just make it median point again. And to make this edge sharp, I'm just going to go Control R to add a loop in here, double G to slide it in like so, and one in here as well, double G. Okay, maybe size it in a bit. And that's our eye, and I'm going to go enable smooth shading. And to make the pupil inside the eye, we're going to select this vertex and go Control plus to grow the selection. That's about enough, and then go E to extrude in a little bit, and E to extrude in a little bit more, like that. Then I'm going to go Control plus to grow the selection, and I'm going to apply material. So I'm going to go to materials, create a new material. I'm going to call this eye. Okay, and by default, it's going to apply this to all the vertices. Then I'm going to create a new material, another new material while we're in here. And remember, we're in edit mode. Go new, and we're going to call this iris. Okay, so I'm going to grow the selection to the whole iris of the eye and go assign. And to see this, we're going to go to our viewport material under the iris, and we're just going to give it a color. I'll just make it green. Then I can decrease the selection all the way to the pupil, make a new material, assign, new, call this pupil, make it black in the viewport, and also here we'll just make it black, like so. And now we have our eyes. But obviously we have the lens around the eyes, so that's really easy to make. Select your eye, Shift S, cursor to selected again, just to make sure that this cursor is exactly in the middle of this eye. Then we're going to go Add, Mesh, and we're going to add another UV sphere. And this one we're not going to rotate, we're just going to size it down like this. And we're going to give it a subdivision surface as well. Enable optimal display, and we're going to grab the eye as well, the first one we made, and also in our subdiv modifier, we're just going to enable optimal display, and that's just going to allow us to see things easier. So I'm going to grab this guy and just size it till it's just a little bit bigger than the eye it's covering. So this is going to be like the outer shell, and I'm just going to enable smooth shading. And to be able to see the eye underneath, with this outer object selected, we're going to go to this little box, this little objects panel, go down to display, and instead of having this on textured, we're going to make it wire. So now we can see through, but when we actually render it, it'll still render it as a complete mesh, not just a wireframe. And then we can also grab, give this guy a mirror modifier, go to the little eyedropper and select the body once again, just like we did with the eye previously. Cool, now we can give this guy a material, go new material, we'll call this lens. Okay, this is the outer lens, and that's done. So to edit these materials a little bit, we'll probably edit them a little bit later on, but for now, I think we'll probably go on with the mouth, yeah. And I'm just trying to decide which step to take next. Yeah, the mouth, we'll definitely do the mouth, and then we'll work on the materials later. So I'm gonna go add, well, first of all, make sure my cursor's in the center, so go Shift S, cursor to center, and then go Add, Mesh, Cylinder, and we're going to make this 8 vertices instead of 32. And we're going to R90 in our front viewport just to rotate it 90 degrees. Then we're going to go into edit mode, Control R to add a loop cut in the middle, and then we're going to press V to cut this, and then right click to let go. Then we're going to select one of these vertices on the left side, go Control L and go X vertices. So now we only have 1/2, and our pivot point is in the center. And we can now go and give it a mirror modifier and enable Z. It shouldn't really be Z. We should apply the rotation. So I'm going to go Control A, apply rotation. It should be, yeah, X is the correct one there. So now it's working properly. So you should just see something like what I just did. It's now mirrored properly, and we can bring it forward so we can model the lips. And just decrease the size, and this is going to be like a tube kind of structure, like a very cartoony, like almost like Wallace and Gromit kind of style mouth. So if we go into edit mode, we can select these vertices here, and we can extrude them like this. I'm just going to extrude, and about here I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to also enable my proportional editing here quickly, just scale this down, also enable clipping. It's going to make things easier. Then we can go extrude, rotate, and I'm decreasing the size just to control my edit by rolling the mouse wheel, just like that. Okay, extrude, G. I'm just rotating, extruding, rotating, and pressing G to move these around. Rotate, move it like this, and that's all it is essentially. Um, just like that. Just creating this really simple tube style mouth. And extruding here. And I'm also going to enable smooth shading. And I'm going to go and add a subdivision surface. And one of the artifacts we're getting here, see this deform, is because there's a face in there. So go back into edit mode and just make sure you're in face select. Grab this face here and go X, delete faces. And I think this one has already been deleted. Okay, so that's good. And that's essentially our mouth. And we're going to create just this little inner part here. So grab your edge select, grab the loop in here. That's just Shift Alt right click to select that loop. What's it done? Should be doing that. Yeah, just that one. And then go extrude. SZ to size it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to press F to face. Okay, it's nobody's going to see the inside of the mouth, so we can really cheat. We really don't have to do much of that geometry because you're not going to see it. And now we can go and create a lip material. So go new. And we're just going to name this lip. And we're going to create a new material. And we're also going to call this one mouth inner, like this. So the lip one in the viewport color, we'll make it pink. Give it a pink color here. And then the inner mouth one, we'll make like a really dark kind of red. Okay, so just select this face here and just Control plus. Oops. What's going on here? I think Blender's frozen. Okay, wait, there we go. Face select, grab these faces, and just assign the inner mouth material. Okay, so just so the inner side of the mouth, the inner part of the mouth is dark. And we're going to drag the mouth back to about here, just so it's not within the body. And because this is really like a cartoony style, like the mouth doesn't have to be like attached to the body. It can kind of just be like floating in front of the body. It'll still work. So I'm just gonna come to the bottom view and make sure my orthographic mode is enabled. Go to 3D cursor mode, and I'm just gonna click here. Place my cursor roughly here, and then I'm just gonna rotate. So I'm just rotating around the cursor. Okay. So now I hope this makes sense. All I'm doing is I'm working from my cursor as a pivot point, and I'm just rotating these lips in towards the body on the side. And because we still have the mirror modifier enabled, it'll be doing it on the other side as well. Okay. So it's always nice to work with a mirror modifier. And there we have it. That was a really simple, easy little mouth to make. And right now it doesn't look so friendly because it's not in a smiling position. So we'll just grab one of these vertices and we'll move it up like this. There we go. That looks really nice. And then we can disable the pivot point, go to median point again, and edit out there. Yeah, that looks fine. Maybe bring this lip in here a bit. Okay, that's enough. I think that's enough for now. And one thing we also want to do is make sure our hair isn't going through our eyes and things here. Oh yeah, one more thing as well with the eyes. We haven't made the eyelid, so we'll quickly do that. It's pretty simple. Just select the outer eye shell, Shift S, cursor to selected, and we're going to add mesh. We're going to add a UV sphere. Go to our right orthographic view, size it down to about here. It doesn't have to be this, it has to be a little bit bigger than the outer shell. Go into edit mode, Shift Alt, right click to select this loop here and go V. Right click to let go. And these two are now separate pieces. So if I select this top one and I go Control L, it selects everything. And because my cursor is in the center here still, I can go to 3D cursor mode and just rotate around the cursor. Like so. And I'm going to and this doesn't have to be accurate, precisely 45 degrees. I'm just going to do roughly 45 degrees on both of them. Then I'm going to tab out, enable smooth shading, go to my modifiers panel. I'm going to give this a solidify modifier. I'm just going to solidify it like so. And I'm going to add a subdivision surface. And I can size this guy down just till it touches the outer lid. And then I'm just going to mirror it as well. So I'm going to go mirror, get the little eyedropper and select here. And we can also give them a material, and we're just going to give that the skin material. So it's the same color as the hair and body. And there we have it. Now we have these really simple little eyelids. And to make the eye editing easier later on as well, we're going to grab this outer shell. We're going to hold in Shift and select the eyelid. Then we're going to select the inner eye, still holding in Shift. Okay, that's the last one we selected. Then we go Control P, Object, Keep Transform. So now if we want to size these down, we don't have to select all of them. We just have to select the inner eye part. And we can go Size, and all the other two lid and the outer shell will follow along. So we can rotate and scale. So that's going to be useful later on. But for now, we'll just refine things. And that's going to be in the second part of this video. Part number 2, we'll refine things. We'll give them some arms, we'll work on the material, and we'll set up some compositing. And we're now going to go on with some of the other refining things that we need to do with this character. So one of the things I want to do is just fix this lip up. It looks kind of bad. So with my proportional editing enabled, I'm just going to grab that vertex and just move them just till that looks right. And also just make sure my median point is enabled. Just like that. Okay, just till it makes a little bit more sense. And we can now go on to creating some vertex groups for our hair particles, just so these hair particles don't actually penetrate the eyes and the lips. So grab your character. So we're going to go to our weight paint, and we're going to go to our vertex groups. And under vertex groups, we're going to click the little plus, and we're just going to call this one density. Okay. And we're going to now grab our add brush, make the strength all the way, press F to grow our brush size, and click on this little button here. That's just going to make it transparent, so it adds it on the back as well. And everywhere where it's red, essentially, that's where it's going to be fur. But the places we don't want it to be red are where the eyes are going to be. So we're going to go to our options, and we're going to see under options here X mirror. And that's just going to make sure it does it on both sides equally. Go back up to tools, go click on our tools here and go to subtract. And we're just going to subtract over here. Okay, so one thing it's doing, it's the mirror, what is it? Oh yeah, this little thing needs to be disabled as well. So disable that again, because we don't want it to be like X-rayed through to the back. We just want it to be the front here. So I'm going to just paint away some of these hair particles. Okay, so we don't want hair to be growing here. And even though you can't see it, if you press Z, you'll be able to see it. So if you press Z, you can see what you're doing. Press Z again, you can see. So everywhere where there's blue, there's not going to be hair. So I don't want it to be hair there. And I don't want it to be hair where the mouth is going to be. So just like that. It's just going to make things easier for us to edit the hair. Just like that. And to see what it looks like, we're going to go into object mode with our body still selected. Go to our particle systems. Go all the way down. And you're going to see a drop down menu called vertex groups. Go down there and you're going to see an option called density. And if you click there, you're going to see our density map. And now it's not creating hair particles where it shouldn't. Okay, but there's still some hairs penetrating the eye. So what we can do is go into our particle paint, and we're just going to paint these particles out. Okay, just like that. And we're not going to get all of them, but we do the most we can. So get as many of them out as you can. And yeah, so maybe go back into vertex paint and just grab your subtract and just get rid of these areas here, just like that. Maybe a little bit more around here, more up here, and then go back into particle edit. And just paint these particles away. Okay. And to get a little bit of a better visual, we can go up to our display, our render, our children. We can make the display here 55, so we can get a bit of an idea of just how dense the hair is. So for some reason, it's still penetrating and I can't get rid of it. So go back into your weight paint, and just it should be removing. But maybe go back to particles. Oh yeah, it's just this hair here. I need to paint it properly. Let's just bring it up. And this is one of the tricky parts of hair particles. Sometimes it's just a lot of editing. You just have to come in here and you have to paint these particles around, just till you get them out of the eyes. I know this is kind of more of like the tedious part of this tutorial, and I know sometimes it's like difficult for people to follow along and like, oh, how did you do that? Well, it's just kind of one of those things, like you have to just take some time and just refine it. You know, pause the tutorial and just paint these away. So those are still in the way. So it's just a matter of going between your weight painting and your particle edit. And it might be a little bit slow because the viewport is so high, but yeah, it's just that's how you refine your hair particles. It's just going back and forth between the weight painting and the particles, and just getting rid of these. So go back into particle edit, and yeah, just pull these around. Like so. And with the mouth, the same thing here. Just pull these hair particles away from the mouth. Yeah, this is like one of those things that you have to do when you're putting fur on characters. You just have to come in here and do a lot of particle editing. And it's kind of annoying. You know, a lot of people don't like doing it. It's not the funnest thing for me either, but you know, just, you know, take your time, just do it right. So I do apologize that this is this is probably really boring to watch, but it's essentially what you have to do to get the fur to be where you want it to be. So I'm just painting, just making sure it doesn't penetrate anywhere. And yeah, that's it essentially. And I think that's enough for now. Okay. So once we render it, we'll really get an idea of what it's actually going to look like. But for now, I think this looks good. And I think to make him look a little bit more cuter, we can grab this eye. We can size it up like this. I think that'll make him look a lot cuter. Bigger eyes. Like so. Maybe increase the size of this mouth a little bit. And to cheat a little bit, we can bring the mouth a little bit forward to help stop those particles from penetrating. I think that looks okay. And now we can go cursor to center, add a camera, go into camera view by pressing 0, and then G, middle mouse wheel, and pull back. This is going to pull your camera back, and then G, Z to make the camera go up, and then G, middle mouse wheel to pull back until you can see your character like so. And I'm just going to, now that I'm in a camera perspective and I can see in perspective view, I'm just going to edit things till it feels natural and cute. And this is one of the things that I always try to tell people about CGI. You know, when you're following a tutorial, it's one of those things you just have to like refine things a lot of the times. Like, 'cause a lot of times people comment and they're like, "Well, how did you get it to look like this and look like that?" Well, it really is just a matter of you know, pausing it and taking the time to just play around and get things the way you like it. And that's really how a lot of my projects are. I mean, to get something to look right, I just pull vertices around and until it feels natural and it's what I have in my mind. So that's kind of one of the things you always have to do when you're working on any project. It's a matter of just yeah, placing things, pulling things around until you think it looks visually pleasing. So now that I look for the camera, I think I might decrease the size of the eyes a little bit. I think that looks cute to me. And another thing is, when you're doing these tutorials, you know, you have complete creative freedom. You can make your eyes as big as you want. You can make the hair look as crazy as you want. You can make the mouth look the way you want. You can make the colors whatever you want. This is just simply a little fun little tutorial you guys can follow along, and I'm just trying to inspire you guys just to make something creative. So I think that looks good for now. That's going to look great in the render. And one more thing I said we're going to give them are some arms, and those arms are really easy to make. So to make things easier, I'm going to go to the second layer. So I'm going to click on here. I'm now in the second layer. I'm going to go add mesh, and I'm going to make a really simple arm. So I've created a cube. I'm going to go SZ, size it down like so. Go to my top orthographic view. Go Control R to add some loop cuts, just 2 loop cuts. Then I'm going to go face select this face, go extrude. Grab this one, extrude. This one, extrude. Then I'm going to grab all 3 of them, pull them out. Oops. Disable proportional editing. Pull them out. Enable individual origins and go S to size them down. And just extrude one more time like so. And those are his 3 little fingers. Then I'm going to go Control R here. Pull this one out like so. And this is just going to be his thumb. Go to my top orthographic. Just rotate it like this. And I know it looks very rudimentary and basic, but for this kind of character, it just has to be a really easy little hand like this will do just fine. Size that. And grab these 2. Get in. And I'm just rounding this out. Grab these faces here. And just extrude. Extrude. And this is a very basic arm. And I'm sorry if I'm going a little bit fast, but you can pause and just follow the steps I've done. And then I'm just going to extrude it a few times. Like so. I think that's about long enough. And then I'm going to give it a subdivision surface modifier. And I click on this little vertex group so the vertices get smoothed out. I'm going to enable smooth here, and there we have our arm. So it's very basic. I might just come in here, add a loop cut here, rotate it, size it in a bit. So it's a very basic, quick arm. Control R, size it in. Control R, add a loop here, and just size it in. So that's my arm. Excuse me. Very basic. So you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going in and out of edit mode and just looking what I can make, where I can make things look a little bit better. Grab this guy here, this edge, just bring it in. Yep, and there we have a really basic little arm. I'm just going to give it the skin material. Come here, grab these 3 faces on the end, just delete them. And there we have an arm. And to make it the pivot point in the right place, just go into edit mode, A to select everything, move it along the x-axis till this pivot point is on the end of the arm. Then go into object mode, and now with our arm selected, go M and move it to the first layer. And then we're just going to go click on the first layer, and there's our arm. Now I just have to go and scale it down, move it up. Go to my right orthographic view, make sure it's right in the middle of our character here. And to make it look a little bit more natural, we can go into edit mode, enable our 3D cursor mode, make sure our proportional editing is still enabled. Then we can just select these faces here, click here to put our cursor, and then we're just going to rotate it like so. Just make it look like an organic structure, the arm. Okay, so he's probably going to have really cartoony, bendy arms. So they're not going to be like make physical sense like our arms would. And go to my right view and just rotate like so. Okay, then we're going to go add a subdivision surface. Not a subdivision surface, a mirror modifier. And we're going to get the little eyedropper. We're going to select a little guy. And there we have it. There are his arms. So if we look for the camera, they look quite cute. So I'm going to disable proportional editing. go to median point, and I'm just going to size these arms down, and there we have it. I think that looks quite cute. And we can also go to our camera settings, enable border, also enable crop. That's just going to make sure the render stays within the camera view. And we can also go cursor to center, add mesh, and we're going to add a plane. We're going to size it up. Then go SX, size it on the X. Then we can go to our right orthographic view, edit mode, vertex select these two vertices and just extrude them like so. And we're just making a backdrop for our character. And then if we look at our camera, we can just size it on the X a little bit more till it fills in the background. And we can enable smooth on that. And there we have it. Now we have a nice simple little backdrop. We can also go add a lamp. I'm going to add a sun lamp. Just going to move it to the right, go to the top, in here like so. Give this a strength of 4. And if we go look in our camera now, it's just going to give a viewport render. We'll see what our character looks like. It's just loading up. It'll be almost. Okay, there we have it. That's what our character looks like so far. Obviously, we still have to work on the materials, so it doesn't make too much sense right now. So I'm just going to press Z to get out of preview render. And one of the things I should probably do is just enable my GPU to make things faster. You might not have a GPU. Don't worry, you can leave it on CPU if you don't. And what else do we need to do? Go to sampling, set the preview to 120. We can go to the clamp, make the clamp direction at the top 4. Clamp direction on the bottom, we'll make that 3. And go to light paths. We can make the bounces 8. We can make the filter glossy 7, and this is going to help reduce noise. And also grab our little guy here. Go to our particle settings and just go to our children, and in the display make it something reasonable like 12. And the final render will be 100. So that'll make more sense. Also go down to our particle settings and make the, under cycles hair settings, make the root thickness 0.5 and make the tip 0.1 and make sure that this closed tip is disabled. Okay, so that's what you have to do in the hair settings. So if we do a quick Shift Z preview render, it should look quite a bit better. Okay, so that's what our hair is going to look like. It's just going to be more dense in the final render, but you can already see our little character is starting to look like he's supposed to. So we can now work on our materials and make him look much more realistic. So we'll start with the skin material. So grab this, just select one of those objects, go to our compositing, and then click on the materials tab here, and you can see this is the default material. So to make it look a bit better, we're going to get a Fresnel shader. Just search for Fresnel, Shift A, search, get a mix shader. Okay, get a glossy shader, put it underneath the diffuse, and then plug this glossy into the bottom of the mix shader, and then plug the Fresnel factor into the factor of the mix. And if we do give it a render now, that should look a lot better. Okay, so yeah, you can see the material has some gloss to it. And we can now work on the lip material. So to save us a little bit of work, I'm going to press A to select all of these nodes, Control C, and then I'm going to right click on the mouth, A to select this guy's nodes and go X delete, and then I'm going to go Control V to paste them in here, and then I'm just going to make the material pink. Okay, so if we give it a render, we'll see the lips. Okay, the lips now have some gloss to them, they make more sense. And we can also go and work on the eye. So I'm going to select the eye lens. Okay, and delete the diffuse. Shift A, I'm going to get a glass shader. Plug it into the surface. Then I'm going to go Shift A, get a mix shader. Put it in between the glass and the material. Shift A, we're going to get a transparent shader. Not a translucent, transparent. Plug it into the bottom of the shader. And that should look much better. If we just use the glass, there'd be a lot of noise and it wouldn't make that much sense. So we can now see the eyes. Okay, so the lens is now transparent like it should be. So we can now select the eye. Okay, the pupil material can stay black, just the diffuse black. The iris, we'll just delete this material as well. Go Control V, and we'll make the iris a green color. And then we'll just click on the eye itself, delete all of those, Control V, and we'll just make this white. Okay, so those are some really simple materials. If I went a little bit fast, I apologize, but there's nothing preventing you from pausing and looking at the node setup. So that should be fine, and that looks good. And do keep in mind the final render will look better. Right now it's not displaying the hair all the way, so it's just like a low display of the hair. So when it actually does a final render, it'll look a lot better. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Go back into our default view, and I'm just going to work on this thumb a little bit more. Just bring this guy in, and this is all stuff I'm not gonna I'm just gonna do this really quickly just to make things look a little bit better, but you guys can take all the time in the world and just refine your little character until it looks right for you. But I'm just doing this as a tutorial, so mine might not look as good as it could. Okay, so because I get a lot of people always saying, oh, you could have done it like this to make it look better, or you could have done this. And the point of my tutorials is just to give you guys a foundation, okay, something you can build upon. You know, you can do my tutorials differently than I do, so don't copy everything I do exactly. You know, be creatively free. You know, create your own characters. So you know, you can give them 5 arms, you can give them 7 arms. You know, you can give them a tongue, you can give them like 5 eyes. You can just go ahead and, you know, be as creative as you want. It's your little character. And yeah, so I think that looks better. Let's give that a preview render. Let's have a look, see what it looks like. Okay, that's very close to what I want. I just think that material, his skin material, is a little bit too dark. So I'm going to go to Compositing. I'm just going to make this a different kind of blue. Okay, I think that looks good. I like that kind of blue. And I'm going to go to my world settings, use nodes. I'm going to make it a little bit wider, like so. Grab my sun lamp, go to my lamp settings, give this a value of 3. So if we give this a viewport render, okay, that looks much better. I like that. And we can now do a test render. So I'm going to go and quickly give this a test render. Okay, so here we have the render now, and you can see it. There's some things here like it doesn't look quite right here, so we can fix that with the particle painting. But still, the concept as a character, it works, and I like where this is heading. I think it'll work. So we now know from our test render that this character is almost done. So we can do a little bit of refinement. So looking at this, I'll definitely fix up this hair a little bit. And I think I'm going to make him look a little bit puffy, so I'll probably comb his hair out to the side a little bit more, make him look a little bit more round and cute. So I'm just going to press Escape, grab my character here, and I'm just going to go to Particle Edit. I'm just going to pull these hair particles out a little bit more, because that round look it just makes him look a lot cuter. So just make these hairs come out like so. Make him look like a little hairball. And I'm, as you can see, I'm doing my particle editing through the camera view, because that's just how I prefer to do it. But yeah, you can do it in the viewport. Bring these hairs up here. Maybe. Okay, I think that'll look much cuter. And we can also, I'm also gonna rotate his hands up a little bit higher, maybe bring his arms down a bit. Yeah. Maybe like this. Cool. And I've noticed that this thumb should actually be more in towards this side. So I just refining things. And I know I'm not really explaining a lot here. I'm just refining it where I think it needs to be refined. Just like that. Just till it makes sense. Let's have a look at that. Okay. So maybe I'll make his mouth a little bit bigger. Bring it forward a little bit. Okay, I think that looks quite cute. I think that'll work. So now we can do our final render. So I'm going to just set this all the way, make this 1280 by 720. Make it 100%. And we're going to make our render samples 200. Okay, so I'm going to render this now, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to show you guys how we do some compositing in the compositor. So I'm going to get render. This is my final render. Okay, so it's now done rendering, and that was about 8 minutes of rendering time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my compositing, and usually we'll have this little tab open, but if you want to get your layer edit, you're going to click on the little layer tab here, and make sure use nodes and backdrop are enabled. And what you're going to see is your render output going into your composite. And one note we have to add to be able to see this is a Shift-A, search, and we're going to get a viewer node. Put it underneath the composite and also plug the image into here. And we're going to go Shift, left click, drag down to cut these two together. And we can also press V to zoom out a bit. And now we have our render layer going into the composite and the viewer, and we can start adding some nodes. So the first node I'm going to add is Shift-A, a lens distortion node. And I'm also going to add a color balance in here. So we'll first start with this one here. So I'm going to make this one at the top 0.05, the distort, and the bottom I'm going to make 0.06. And I'm going to enable fit. Okay, so that adds some camera distortion. And then I'm going to play around with these settings here. So I might want to go to the middle gamma here and put a little bit more emphasis on this light blue here. Okay, I think that looks quite nice. And brighten it up a little bit on the gain. And over here, maybe on the lift, maybe bring the contrast down a bit. Just a little bit, just to give it some more contrast. And there we have it. I think that looks quite good. And that's our final image. So if you want to save this out, you can go to image. So you can go down here to view, viewer node. Here's your image. And then you can go say image, save as image, go to desktop, and we can name this final. Okay, so save as image, and there you saved it. So I hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you did, give a thumbs up below, subscribe to my channel, and if there's anything you didn't understand in this tutorial, I do apologize. I do try my best to explain. Yeah, but I hope you learned something. I hope you got some inspiration. And yeah, I'll see you guys for another Blender Buzz tutorial real soon. Thanks.